All right, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. We're still doing it.
We're still doing it. Yeah, I mean, I will say, like we said before, like,
recovery.
It was nice to be missed. Yeah, I mean, it's like you never really, it's a little appreciation. Yeah, so it was nice for someone to pop in, and we usually do, I mean, to be fair, we usually do, like, give you guys a heads up, like, hey, we're going to be out, the next week. But yeah, I had not last minute, but yeah, I had a father-son trip with Hayden plan, and I was doing all the packing, and I was like, I'm not even going to, like, attempt to try to load up the podcast equipment and do that, and then worry about fitting it in when he's at camp during the day and then not interfering in the night. So yeah, we decided to scrap it for the week, and apparently it worried a few. It would send out like a podcast Amber Alert for Mike and Robbie and wondering where we were doing, but no, we were all good, taking our time, and I'm sure Mike, you got a lot done last week and traveled in, and it's back to school for a lot of people. And yeah, but it's it's busy time of year. And yeah, it's good to be back. It's always, again, like it always feels like, you don't talk about this a lot when you come back from like being out of office for a race or a little vacation. You come back and I mean, you might only miss like 4 to 5 days in training peaks, but it feels like 6 years.
Oh.
I mean, you feel so like, honestly, I don't know how. Like, I know there are a lot of coaches that probably like do it part-time that check in like once a week, like on a Sunday. I feel like I feel like it's a decade has gone by. Like it feels so detached and so just removed from all things, and it's wild. And same thing with the podcast. Like we did this for a week, and I'm like, man, like what did we even talk about? Like, but it's only been like 9 or 10 days since we did one. But yeah, it still feels like so much is like transpired, especially during race season when there's something happening like every single weekend. In the off season, winter, fall, like not much is going on. Everybody's kind of get their head down, getting their training in. But yeah, I mean it's full on. You got Louisville 70 point. Okay, I wasn't gonna do this, but I'm doing it right now.
All right. So
Louisville 70.3 is this weekend. And I think I know it's a pro race. And I opened up, and this I'm going to take 100% responsibility right here. Okay. I opened up Facebook on my laptop today to check on something. And the first thing that came through my feed, this is why I hate social media and I hate Facebook, because it didn't put me in a bad mood, but it was a post from the Louisville 70.3 Facebook page. And it was basically saying, forecast for Sunday is 97 and 100 degrees. I've just about had it with this race. I'm never signing up again. I was really hoping for, 80s and 90s. And I'm like, in my head, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, you signed up for a race in August in the South. What did you think we were going to get? Like, yeah, we got teased like 2 weeks ago with some like very, very unseasonable weather. And it was very cool. People got to see it like this. What do you think you signed up for? It's the summer in the South. It's going to be hot. If you don't like it, don't sign up for it. Like it hit a nerve, and you see a lot of comments. Oh, they used to have this race in August and it's for some, but not others. And I personally just can't, everybody be safe out there. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like we sign up for these things on purpose. And if you sign up for these races, it's kind of like signing up for a race and you hope the swim gets canceled. If you're signing up for these kind of races and that's your mentality, then it might be time to bump it down a bit. Maybe like slot things back down to the sprint, the Olympic distance, where it's a little bit shorter. You have to worry about the weather getting too hot later in the day. I know that the last time you and I did the voting was the last year they had it in August. I think your mom, there's an infamous picture of your mom, the great Ann Raleigh, walking around with her backpack with like a thermometer. It read 120. I think we had 2,000 people finish that year. Yeah, they moved it to October, and guess what happened? The race gone. Then people started complaining that it was too cold. Exactly right. It's like, so can we just stop the complaining and like, it's gonna be hot. Are you gonna have a PR? Probably not. But it's know what you're signing up for. And if you're gonna bitch and moan about it, just do us all a favor. Keep it to yourself, because then honestly, all it does is toss fire onto other people and their attitude and their mood. Or it just honestly, it scares people who probably aren't as confident and probably as resilient as others. And now they're gonna go into this race thinking the same thing. Like, just tune that. And again, this is on me for even reading it, but it fires me up for a good reason. Like, we sign up for these events on purpose. We know what month we're in here. Like, this isn't like, that's like me signing up for a race in Alaska in January and being like, guys, I looked at the weather and it's going to be freezing. I think I've had it with this race. I think I'm done. I'm never signing up for a race in Alaska in January ever again because it's going to be way too cold. Like, what were you signing up for? Like, in this, we know this, like signing up for a course and being shocked that, it's hilly when the bike, profile says 6,000 feet. It's like, I think we just expect way too much we expect things to be easy. We expect things to be softer. We don't like overshoot things, which I feel like is what we used to do all the time. Is like, you expect it to be really, really, really hard. You have like a healthy level of fear going into your training. You sign up for things to challenge yourself. You don't sign up for freaking cupcakes. And I wasn't going to go there. I don't know why we went there because I'm talking about Louisville, but yeah, I'm not going to lie. I didn't have any body glide on. It chafed me a little bit.
Well, I mean, while you were with Hayden all week last week, I was planning out deep details and doing research for today's podcast, but obviously you have a topic. I have a long list of an outline here. No. Yeah, man, it's, obviously that's a problem. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't understand. Well, but here's the thing. When I think about that, I always think about outliers, right? It's one of the hardest things to do these days is that when you see people post like that, that's just like maybe, in the 10% or something like that. I think, most people are I think most people logically realize if they sign up for Louisville in August, it's probably going to be hot, but it is. I was just talking about like, late season stuff and how our brains can just flip on a dime sometimes, like one day you feel great and, you're training. So like that person probably had a shitty training day and they got beat down by the heat and then they looked at the weather and then it just all kind of avalanched into a silly little post on social media that affects everybody, and I just think we gotta, it's like, my boss would always tell me when back in the day, he's like, if you're mad at somebody, just sit on that email overnight. It's like, I think we need more of that, with social media posts, because I've done it, we've all done it where we sent some shit out there and then I kind of forget about it. You wake up and you're like, damn, why did I say that? That's kind of ridiculous right now, because yesterday it felt fine. Today it feels ridiculous. And, that's just when people attack a rate, it's like, we used to talk about it, man. It's like, I wish they'd bring it back for that very reason, because of that challenge, so you look at races and, sometimes you might be like, all right, I'm going to do an early season race like Chattanooga because my swim might not be in gear. It's a downstream swim and that's fine. But, if it somehow turns to be an upstream swim, you better be ready to deal with it, with wind or whatever. But I just, I think strategically we got to start thinking about this a little bit more. And then B, like when you get late in training, sometimes I just think your head goes like, it can explode sometimes, because one day you feel great and the next day you're just completely wiped out and you have no idea how you're going to finish it. But then the next day comes around or 2 days later and you feel okay again. And I just think the moodiness of this late when anybody's tapering for a 70.3 or a full, like crazy comes out, and the irrational, and your behavior becomes unbecoming.
Ooh, I love that word, unbecoming. And maybe my reaction is a little unbecoming, but you know what?
Well, no, but I think sometimes
you're so right though, because it's always those. I'm like, listen, like I do. I think it's like and I mentioned this in my weekly email yesterday to send out to the athletes that we work with, and I did because honestly, I think part of it too is like, and this is more of a positive spin. I'll try to become a little less unbecoming about this kind of stuff. But I do, I told him in this email, when you're the same way, right? Like, you read through all these different things that people go through in life, with their, personally, and professionally, and with their, especially, some of the challenges that kids have these days and that they're going through, and the effects that has on their parents. And then you got job loss, and you got, sickness and health, and, friends, family that pass away. Like, it's a lot to bear. And it's honestly like reading through those and like Training Peaks comments, it has, and seeing people still get up and still put one foot in front of the other and still, get out there and make things happen and not be perfectly consistent, but at least putting their, again, their best foot forward to try to make it happen. They're just for themselves, to set a good example, take care of their body, take care of their own health, for their own, sanity. And then you see people like it's legit. It's like lowered not that my patience level was super high for humanity anyway, but it is definitely, lowered my patience level for like the average human and like the average and the things that we tend to like complain about, because there are so many things I think that we and this is a great example. Like the same thing with like Rockford, it popped up to be one of those like really, really hot, unseasonably hot race, and no one can really, prepare for. Same thing with Wisconsin a few years ago, when it was really, really, every race has their challenges, right? You got, 40-mile-an-hour headwinds, you got sleet, you got flooded courses in Maryland. I mean, like every race is like really a microcosm of life, right? Like in day-to-day life, like you wake up and you hope today's going to go perfect, but we all know it's not. Like we know something's going to pop up, like something's going to get, rearranged, your kid's going to get sick and have to stay home. You're going to take one kid to the doctor, your spouse or your significant others, like, has to, have a procedure, or a job goes crazy, or you're not feeling too well, or something gets changed. Like something from the time you wake up, rarely does anything ever just like go perfectly to plan. Even if it does, you're not like guaranteed to have the perfect day. But I think like I think I mentioned this a couple months ago, but one of my favorite quotes that I've keep like reminding myself of, and I've even found myself like reminding Hayden of, like when it comes to like life and how our attitude was that quote. It was like, no one has to change for me to win. No one has to change for me to win. And that means basically not letting how anyone else's actions or attitudes affect your winning mentality or what your vision or thought of is winning is today. I'm not talking about winning a game or winning a race, not like just winning the day, right? Coming out on a positive note, choosing to take things on, not being deterred by a spilt cup of coffee, or, the grocery store not having your favorite, bread in the bread aisle, like the little things that just tends to send people completely over the edge, and it's just like the easy days we don't learn anything from. Right. It's the days that are challenging, that are difficult, that we rise to the occasion. Right. We figure out a way to conquer, and we just have an attitude like, you know what? I just got to get this done. I just have to absolutely get this done and make sure that I can do, just get, like I said, just get it done. And I think to have that attitude, I think, again, it's a choice. Like when you don't have the expectation around it, and again, goes for races like this weekend in Louisville, it's going to be hot. Just tone it down some. Because again, like my thing with heat and with racing, it's all going to hurt the exact same amount. It's just the rate of speed in which you're going to be going. So if it's cooler in Louisville and it's, let's say, just 80, you're going to go harder. You're going to work yourself hard on the swim. You're going to work yourself hard on the bike, and you're going to absolutely blow it out. It's going to be painful. But you're going to go at a fast rate of speed. If it's warmer, guess what? You got to slow down. But it's going to be hot. The truth of the matter is like honestly, you think about it from like a soreness level, most athletes that I coach, as long as you hydrate enough, you're probably going to be, if you're at least like remotely like, proportionally trained, you're going to wake up on Wednesday and ready to race again. Because you're not going to be able to go nearly as hard as you thought you were going to be able to go, as long as you're not dehydrated, and at the rate of speed that creates like all the extensive damage in your quads, your hamstrings, especially in the legs. Like after like a really, really hard half marathon, like that's the stuff that really, really hurts. So it's just gonna be warmer. You're gonna go slower, and it's gonna be warmer, and that's it. Like that really isn't like and that's how the way you have to think about it. Like it's as simple as like a little shift in mindset. Hey, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is how things have to change. And here I was on the bright side, like I'm probably gonna get back to training on Wednesday. Like it might have a little bit of sunburn, but as long as I hydrate well, there's no way I'm going to be able to bike and run as fast as I possibly can. So I'm not going to be a sore. And that's how you look at it. It's all the same, right? It's just different levels of discomfort in different ways. And I think that's, again, like how you approach things, how you look at things, that attitude, like go to start all the races, like start with the positive mindset. And I'm not talking like naive. I'm just talking about, hey, like, yeah, it's gonna be hot. This is my chance. This is my opportunity to go out there and to nail my nutrition, to nail my fueling, and to outsmart everybody out there. instead of, I'm so done with this race. Like, how about let's just be done with the attitude? Like, let's just choose to be, you know what? It's going to be hot, more advantageous to me, kind of like you. Like, I knew that day in Wisconsin when it was like raining cats and dogs and it was gross and it was cold, I was like, this is advantage Mike Torelli, because I know how you operate under those conditions. Right? You didn't go out there and you didn't moan and groan. The rain. You're just like, you know what? Bring it. Well, other people were
I moaned and
scared and I know you did. I saw it. But still, like, I knew you were still going to get it. You know, I knew you were still going to get it done. And I think that's just the mindset and the shift that people have to have, that I don't think that we have enough, because we do. We have so many expectations and predictors and graphs and data that we always tend to go to. I know we talk about it a lot, but I think it's a dying art, and it doesn't, you know, unfortunately, it doesn't require us to plan out the level of resiliency that we all have to have when it comes to race day, because we are able to control so many things, and we do have so many, you know, extended opportunities to train in different ways, in a protected swim, in a lap pool inside or outside, or on our bike in the trainer, and never go outside, never see cars or other people, or ride on the treadmill, or ride on protected trails. Like, you know, we like really, really close our circle when it comes to training, but we lose a little bit of that edge. And I think embracing that part of it, that we choose these things because they're hard. We don't choose them, hopefully, because they're going to be easy. Yeah. Right? We choose them because it's going to be difficult and it's going to test us. It's just that every race might test us in a way that we didn't know we were going to be tested when we signed up, but that's also okay.
Yeah. Well, that leads really into something I've been thinking about a lot lately, which is kind of this concept of just figure out a way, because that's really what this sport comes down to a lot. We talk about, you know, how to train, you know, to prepare for the race. And for me, so, you know, like I was saying, especially this time of year, I'm getting a lot of, you know, man, I'm really tired. I didn't really feel like this, that kind of thing. And you get deeper into these training blocks for fall, you know, Ironman or 70.3, and you know, people are just worn out. It's hot, and, you know, they're dealing with all kinds of stress and all this shit. Well, yesterday I was out, I got in the lake, and I swam out, you know, kind of like 1,500 yards. And I just didn't have it, you know. I was just like in the spot where I was just, man, the rhythm was off. I was tired, had a fairly big weekend, and I was like, man, I don't feel like I want to feel in that race. You know what I mean? It's that thing. It's like we always want to feel great, you know, in training. And then I was out there, and I have this opportunity where I could have gotten out of the water, and then, you know, it would have probably been a 1.5 mile, 2 mile walk back around the lake. And I just tread water for like, you know, 15 seconds. And I'm like, I'm not going to get out and walk. I'm going to figure out a way to make this feel easier right now. And I just started like relaxing a little bit more, and just with no agenda. I wasn't trying to, you know, break some kind of speed record coming in. And I just started relaxing, and I started, you know, just kind of flowing with in the moment a little bit more. And the next thing you know, I was like, I feel okay now. And then about, you know, 500 yards into that, I had maybe 1,000 left. I kind of unlocked something in my stroke. I don't know exactly. It's something to do with how my rhythm was, and it just started feeling like, wow, this feels really good right now. So I think my point is like you're saying, you said pull back or tone it down a little bit. I think we have that opportunity all the time in training and racing to do that and understand. You know, I'm reading this book casually. It's called Endurance or something like this. I don't know if you ever heard of it. Mm-hmm. But there are tons of like scientific studies, which that shit just kind of puts me to sleep a lot of times. But he's talked about a lot of different storylines and things like this, and how people do. First, have you ever heard this is called a Deca Ironman or some shit like that?
Mm-hmm.
It's like
we've had like, but not, I mean, Deca, we had a few do the Anvil, and then I think we have two or three do the Deca actually. Yeah.
The Deca.
It's like 4 or 5 days.
No, this one's like, a dozen. It takes like 9.
What?
It's like 47 miles to swim to start, and then
holy hell, no,
2,500 miles riding, and then I can't remember. But anyway, he's talking about how the one thing about scientifically that I was kind of interested is how they were talking about pedaling or something, or maybe it was even running. But your body, how the muscle recovers in between a pedal stroke. It's really interesting. Like once you take off the reaction or the force, it kind of recovers real quick and then it goes back, like, so it just was making me think, like, how in the world, because like sometimes when you can go out and you're like, man, I feel like shit, like I did yesterday, and then just kind of take a breather and kind of recover. Your muscles are ready to go again usually, but again, I think it's the mental piece that we just want to always push a little bit. We want to feel good, and then we want to go fast all the time, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go fast. And I think that's how I was swimming in the beginning. I was just a little tense and I was like forcing it, and I was trying to overpower my, tired muscles and all these kinds of things. And it just wasn't clicking. But yeah, cause I like what you said, man. It's like, if you're out there and you're not feeling it, just tone it down a little bit. It's not like you can't overpower things all the time. And I guess the lesson for me yesterday was that, and this happens in running too, for me. Sometimes I'm just like, man, I do not feel like running. I'm not going to stop, but I'm just going to figure out how to make it feel easier. And I think sometimes that forces you to learn your form a little bit better.
Anytime we're forced to slow down, I think we should, like, if we could just, like you said, flip the script and look at it more of as an opportunity instead of like a negative, then we'd be so much better off. Because again, like, and I think this is one of the problems with having so much information out there and so many expectations, and it comes with like the pre-built, workouts that they're great. They have a lot of advantages to them, but they do. Like, I never used to run into this problem when I first got into coaching. It was like, oh, I didn't meet the watt range, or I didn't meet, the thing is, you think the watches and the bike computers are beeping at you. It was just like, you just did it by feel, and like you just trusted that your feel was good enough for the day, and you never got to see things like immediately. Like you just got to feel it out, and it was what it was, and you just got to go by heart rates. You didn't really know the power you're putting out. You were going by like miles per hour on the trainer, using your cat eye speed and cadence sensor on the on your rear chainstay. But now it's like we see these and we can't meet it, and we think it's a failure, but it's not. It's just, like you said, it's just an opportunity. Like if you have a hard ride, coming up, like you said, like you have a swim that didn't go very well, you're not feeling it, then stop and do some tech work. Hey, coach has a 3,000, 4,000 yard swim on tap, for you. And after, the warm up, you're not feeling really, really good. Instead of just trying to force it and just being so disgruntled that you can't do it, try to do something, right? Turn it into, do 25s and 50s of drills and tech work. And then two things are usually going to happen. One, you're going to do that, and you feel like you at least accomplished something. You may have slowed down, which is great, right? But you also probably, after, maybe let's see it at 850s and 625s, you might also be like, hey, actually, I feel pretty good now. Maybe I can go rip off a few of those hundreds that coach wanted me to do today. It's this insanely hard thing to wrap. I was having this exact conversation with the dad over the weekend, or late Sunday afternoon, as for a swim lesson I did when I got back in town. Is a very, very like high motor kid. And I pulled him aside and I said, hey, listen, I use the same analogy I've used in this podcast a lot of times. I said, well, they're at that age at 13, especially for females, where if you have a huge engine but no technique, then you're eventually going to cause injury. So like right now she's got an engine that's supposed to go in a Mack truck in the chassis of a Miata. And so if we don't slow things down and create better technique and a better foundation of that chassis, then eventually you can't. That's the thing with swimmers and even a lot of endurance athletes, right? You hop on the bike or you go out and run. It's like you can always, they translate speed and effort and everything to just working harder. And if I want to catch the person in front of you, I just got to work harder. If I want to beat my neighbor down the street and the sprint and try in a couple of weeks, I just got to work harder. But it's not always about working. It's about also being efficient. But to do that, you have to slow down. And so to like see that as an opportunity when you have a hard swim set coming on and you're like, hey, you can either one, get out of the pool and just say, I didn't have it today, and be so frustrated and I'm losing fitness and my swim is stalled. Spend, $800,000 just doing some tech work. See how you feel. One, you're probably going to feel better. Two, even if you don't, at least you feel like you got value out of it. You hop on the bike the next day, or a different day, maybe a couple weeks down the road, and you're like, man, I really was excited about this workout, but, I did the first one of my legs. I didn't recover last night. I had a lot of stress. I'm not feeling today. It's probably best that I just kind of tone this down. Then tone it. Don't quit it. Don't just chop it off at the head after interval 1 and just get off the bike because, it's not going to be good enough. It's not going to meet the actual integrity of the workout. Flip the script. Hey, coach says I need to work on my cadence, so maybe I'll just do, 85 to 90 cadence, which is good for me because I'm a pretty low cadence guy and my cadence generally kind of sucks. So I'll just do some like 2 to 4 minute intervals, super easy spinning, just working on my cadence. You got better. Like it might not feel, and I think that's like one of the problems that we have. One is endurance athletes, but it's just as people in general is we expect, if we don't feel like it was hard enough, then we didn't get better. Right? We have that mentality of if I don't feel trashed, or I got a beat yesterday, or I was going to throw up, or I was demolished. Like that's not really how it's supposed to feel. Like you should always feel like you have a couple more reps in you. And so flip the script, like you said, do that. You head out for a run and you just feel like shit and you can't get anything done, and you're just not feeling your heart rate's high or just something's off. Do a walk run, right? Run for 2 minutes, walk for 3. Run for 2, walk for 3. Run for 3, walk for 2. See what happens. You're still getting work in. I think that we do, like we've unfortunately, like again, and a lot of it has to do with the amount of information and bells and whistles that platforms provide now and make them look more fancy and more advanced. It's really just advancing us more quickly towards, the era of like not being able to think and the obsession with perfection, which is, guess what? Like newsflash, it ain't happening. Like you're not going to be perfect. Nothing is perfect. Your training isn't perfect. Most workouts aren't perfect. They may have felt good, but they weren't perfect. A lot of the perfect quote unquote workouts people feel is just where your mind was in a great place and so is your body for that day. When they're mismatched, that's when things like tend to go awry and you think you have to like really concentrate and be objective about how you feel. But there's always good things that can be done. Yeah. And as a total rest day, sometimes the answer, sure. Sometimes it is the absolute best choice you can make. A lot of times your coach has to help you make it, but you can always make a decision to find something, some positive spin to put on it. But if you don't find that, if you don't seize those opportunities in training, you sure as hell aren't going to see them when it comes race day, right? When things don't go your way or it's all of a sudden not, wetsuit legal and all you did was train for a wetsuit or, more than likely you didn't train at all. So because you hoped it was going to be wetsuit, or the bike was super windy, or the temps got hotter, or they ran out of, ice at the aid stations, you got really hot, or your foot's cramping. Like there's always going to be something. So if you don't practice that kind of mentality and train to kind of like find your own spin on it, then when it comes to race day, you're going to be that one that just sees it as like a complete, utter success. And anything other than that, if it's not perfect, is a total failure. Right. And we can't do it. And that's just, again, like a lot of this goes back to, the training and the weeks and how they're laid out. And it's funny because like I have some athletes that like are so obsessed about making their week perfectly green that they'll move heaven and earth to make sessions where they're completely green. Or if they're not, they'll adjust the time that I put in for a run. Like if I put in 40 minutes for a run and they only did 25, then that's probably like an orange or a yellow. They'll go in and edit the time that I gave them to match the time that they get to make it green. I'm not gonna listen, if that's how you roll, that's how you roll. Like I get it, whatever. But and then some athletes who legit couldn't care less. I've got 95 killers. Workouts are done on different days. Every different day of the week that you could possibly imagine, they're done 6 workouts a day. They got walks, they got golfing, they got kayaking, they got walk to the mailbox, they got, a short walk with my kid on the soccer field. They got fueling in there. It legit looks like, it looks like Rain Man, Tetris, and like pinball at the same time. And you're like, how do you even look at this week? They don't even care. They just, when they start, they all they know is they just stop. They just start their watch and stop it. That's it. That's all I know, because they know the work is the work. And then you have everybody in between. And I think it's just like, it's something that we have to kind of remember of, how, it's still sometimes like if I get done with a run at the house and I run into some of my chatty neighbors, like, hey, how far did you go today? I'm like, I don't know, 40 minutes. They're like, but how far? I'm like, I don't even know yet. They're like, you don't know how far you ran? I'm like, I know. I just know that I ran for 40 minutes. I'll need to go look. And it's just like completely foreign to them. Because they all just run by. I got to run 7 miles today. Mm-hmm. No matter what it looks like, I got to run 7. And, do I generally know just because I've run the same route so many times? I generally have an idea, but I just know the time. time and effort. And I think the more and more we can, again, like, and that's also a great way to create success in workouts that you feel like might not be headed in the direction that you want them to be headed in, is, am I putting the time in? Yes. Am I putting the effort in? Yes. Regardless of the results, right, and what you hope they would be, if you can check those first two boxes, then usually the rest of it's going to take care of itself.
Yeah. That's hilarious. I got, like athletes now that I have that are just intuitively sort of picking up on this. Okay, it's really hot out today and I have a long run, and there's just a lot of them I'm starting to see are kind of just naturally splitting it. They start on the treadmill and then they'll go out and run the back half on the outside, because you want to get, like you were saying earlier, you want to get real life experience in the weather. You have to get that, but they're just playing it kind of smart. Their heads in their bed a little bit, and they're doing that kind of stuff. And I have another athlete who recently asked me, and I get this question quite, obviously you do too, but the inquiries about maybe we should push my FTP a little bit right now. And I got that question the other day from one of my favorite athletes. He's like a very intuitive guy, and we talk about this stuff a lot. And he said, I've just been feeling really good lately, and I feel strong. But he's got like a 70.3 coming and a full. And I was just like, well, I kind of said, I think that's a good feeling that we should probably keep. If you feel like, some days you have a little bit more in the tank and you want to push that number a little bit on some of these intervals, I think that's on you. But like sometimes and I've seen it many times when we raise the FTP or whatever. And like you said, it's just like, it's sort of like that perfect day analogy, right? You're talking about your head's in the right place and your body's in the right place and you feel great and you nail it. But then, 2 or 3 days later, whatever, you kind of get back in this weird funk. And then all of a sudden that FTP is like a stretch goal. And it's like, So for me, it's kind of like, I told him, I was like, well, let's just stay here for a while. If you feel a little bit better certain days, just do that. It's hot out. You got 2 big races coming up. We don't need to, like 90% of the people I deal with seem to think that it's like they're just not, they want a day off, but they don't want to take it. There's sort of this, like, I just need to keep grinding. And I think that's good. I think it's all such a gray area, man, and I feel it now too. It's sort of like, am I going to get more benefit from just, dragging myself deeper into a hole right now? Or, am I far enough out? Which I guess I just announced that I'm doing that race. Jesus.
Man, yeah, well, there you go. Spoiler alert, newsflash. Heard it here first.
Yes.
ESPN, bottom line.
Breaking news, my name will be in the tracker at Ironman Wisconsin once again. Going back for more. Humbling. But yeah, so it's kind of like, you're always walking that thin line. And I just, I was talking to another athlete. We're talking about, he did Rockford, and that day blasted him hard, harder than he thought, I think, because he was ready and he went out, like we were talking about, it was like that race just snuck up on everybody a little bit harder than it should probably. And he's been kind of in and out of the drag. And I'm like, dude, we need to take a couple days here and just kind of reset. And, but it's sort of this thing. And I was just thinking about this too, because it's like more and more and more, we got to do more and more and more and harder. We just had 4 ladies do the TransRockies run, right? And I think you work with all of them, right?
Yeah.
And, it's 120 miles over 6 days. And, I was talking to Emily about, it's like, that's kind of, it's pretty impressive. It's like doing 6 marathons in a row. And then the question always comes back. And this is a question I kind of see a lot whenever I try to, find out how these Tour de France riders ride, and how they train. It's sort of like when, people always think they got to do an Ironman before they do an Ironman kind of thing. And people don't understand the mechanics of that. And the girls that did the TransRockies, I was talking to Emily, she said, I think 2 hours might've been her long run, or roughly that, a couple times, 2 or 3 times. And it's hard to fathom that, right? It's like, wait, what? You never even did one distance, let alone 6 in a row. So that's to me is such a big question with regard to, now all of a sudden it's like, in my long runs for Ironman are 12 or 13 miles, and I usually get through them, sometimes better than others, but who knows why exactly. Probably a little bit of undertraining. But the point is we don't have to, like, it's that minimal effective dose thing that you talk about a lot. And like, at what point, it's that fresh versus stale thing that we always talk about too. The 70.3, being really well trained for a 70.3, you're going to take that person or somebody who's overtrained for an Ironman. And I'm still in that camp, 100%, that we would take the 70.3 athlete, because you got to be careful, man. It's like, I was telling her, I'm sure that the elite runners, the ones that were winning this thing or getting podiums, they're training more than 2 hours for sure. But that's what they do. And, it's like pros, the pro riders probably, and triathletes, they probably go out for, crazy long rides and runs a lot, but they're built up to this level. That's what they do. And they're focused completely on that. So it's just, once you get over, it's like, okay, if Emily started doing, 3 or 4 runs here. And like, that's kind of gray area, right? You know what I mean? It just feels like we can drag ourselves into the muck if we're not careful. But it's like your body can only handle so much and be ready for that race. And it's better to be kind of fresh and mentally excited, I think, is a huge piece of it. Because if you're kind of like, damn, this whole thing sucks, I don't even want to do it again, going into the race, you're screwed,
I think, and I'm sure I'll get lambasted for this, but thinking through like these long races, and even just some of the longest races that I've ever done, like thinking back to like the 10 miles from the Suck race that I did, other, insane endurance events, Ironman events that athletes do, the TransRockies race, like these stage races. They're incredibly physically demanding and incredible when you can cross it off and say that you did it. But I honestly don't think that the physical accomplishment of that task and that feat is anywhere even close to the mental accomplishment. Because to me, it's not the running or the hiking or the distance or the consecutive days, like the toll that it takes on your body, that is the big. I think it's the mental choice that you have to make to wake up each one of those days and choose to do it again, because you already know how bad it's going to suck. Like, to me, that is the epitome of why we do endurance sports and people get into ultra events, because you sign up knowing it's going to be excruciating. Then you kind of have an idea, right? It's going to be uncomfortable, right? You
can never remember what that exactly is.
You have a sense of it, right? Exactly. But even if you've done it before, you still don't fucking know until you do it again. And then to wake up with, I know they had blisters, and they're just like, and they still chose to get up, and they made a conscious, right? Like, conscious choice to do it again. Like, not for a medal, not for some, Netflix documentary, not for social media. They just chose to do it again, to put themselves through that experience again. Because we also know, like, from having done, similar things before, the reward that you get, obviously it's not, they're gonna probably all have 4 of them have like cankles for the next 2 months, but you just kind of know that the reward you get from that isn't some big fitness boost. It's a mental and emotional award that you've earned that you can't really, it's not physical, but you just have proven to yourself that, not that you can do hard things, but that you can put yourself willfully into the fire, and to be resilient, and to be tough, and to make your way through. And it might not be pretty, and nobody was probably racing pretty the last 4 days of that event, whether they were at the top of the pointy end or not. No one feels awesome. No one has perfect days. I bet you everyone that did that race from first to last cried and laughed and had doubts and had confidence, probably like a roller coaster of emotions every single day. Like, and again, like I think that's why people love endurance sports, is because it does, like you mentioned earlier, it's so symbolic to everyday life. It's just that we get to choose, right? Everyday life, you leave your endurance event, you leave the training, and life just happens at you. Your kids get sick, your parents, have to be put in a home, you lose a job, your close friends do this. Like, all these things happen to us in life, and we just have to respond the best way we know how. But we always feel like we're on the defense, right? We're just life just happens, and we just have to make the best decision that we can to make it. I mean, it's just, and this, like, as coaches, it's really, really hard to read sometimes. You just can't wrap your brain around how this person's going to get up the next day and keep finding a way, and yet they do. So like we spend the majority of our lives with life happening to us, where none of us are in control of anything. We like to think we're in control, right, of all these things, but we're not. But endurance sports, I think, are so attractive because we get to choose the pain. We get to choose. It's right. It's weird. It's kind of like I wouldn't call it a sadistic, but it's like it's a way for us to kind of like take back it's like, hey, like, you can't, it's gonna kind of like, we can make fun of somebody, but don't make fun of me. It's like, we can take it, but we also want to dish it out. We want to dish it out to ourselves, right? Like, which is a really weird thing to think about. But I really think that's why people get so much out of this, because they're like, yeah, this is me. I'm giving it to me. I'm taking it to me, like, and I can do this. And I think it makes life more tolerable. Because if you're like, hey, I can put myself through, not just can I put myself through this, I can invest my own money that I work hard for. I can take time away. I can do things that scare me, and I'm just going to put myself through a hell of a lot of pain, maybe even like a couple scars or two, and I'm going to do it on purpose. And I'm going to do it with some friends, I'm going to do it by myself, I'm going to do it on purpose. And it's going to be so hurtful, and no one's going to care. And people are going to ask me if all I did was, go on a 2-mile ruck on the Greenway with my dog, and they're not going to have any idea what I did or care, but I am. And I think it's like, again, like, it's just this weird, like, place that we put ourselves in to challenge ourselves, but again, to take it back, and take control of the pain and discomfort and the lessons that we can learn, instead of life having to teach us lessons. Like, we get to teach ourselves some. And I think it's an opportunity that we all have each and every day we train, each and every day we have races, we're able to race, that the rest of the world won't ever really understand. Right? They can't wrap their brain around the willingness to do that on purpose. Right? And I think, but they also won't have those lessons. Like, we don't learn lessons from perfect days. We learn lessons from heartache and triumph and trauma and making our way through. And like these are just things that we learn as endurance. And that's why I think it's such can be a life-changing and life-altering sport if you let it, and you embrace the essence of what endurance and endurance sport is, and don't become so overly obsessed with the data and the time, the outcomes. And yes, like, those are important, and those also can like transcend your thought process and your belief system and what you think or you once thought was possible, if you to accomplish. Yeah, it's there, but like all the other time, like the layers upon layers upon layers that we can do, it scares the average person. They can't wrap their head around it, and you can try to tell people, just like I said, you can try to prepare yourself for how bad it's going to hurt, but you don't really know until you're in it again, or you remind yourself when you're in it again. And I think it's a beautiful thing, that I think we don't, not that we don't give it full credit, but I think that we lose sight of the real reason a lot of us get into this, and why a lot of us stick around, is we keep jonesing for those moments of discomfort that we get to choose, and that also means we get to overcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's great, man. People are always, sometimes we want to ask, what's the point? I think the point is, getting the most out of ourselves, and really it's sort of like, what are you doing when nobody's watching? because that's what you're talking about. Nobody knows what we're doing. And, especially in training, and people in my neighborhood see me all the time and they're like, what the hell is this? But I'm doing that for myself, and I think sometimes we get trapped by external, feedback and, approbation and things of that nature. But what are you doing when nobody's looking? And that apply. And I think the key that we all want to unlock really is that we know there's something good in this sport, and we know that there's something great in what we're doing for ourselves. And then ultimately we want to roll that into everything we do, right? Like whether it's work or our families, our friends, and, be that kind of like person that can go through hard times with somebody, or can help people when they need it, and not be tired. I wrote something to my athletes a couple of weeks ago I went to the grocery store, and, I don't live in the healthiest town in America by any means up here, but going in these grocery stores sometimes just really hits me hard, man. I'm looking around and, I remember when like those little scooter things used to be kind of rare, and now it's like they got more of those in carts half the time at this place. And, people are limping around and they can barely, put shit in their cart and everything. And I'm looking at, a lot of these people are probably not too far away from my age, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I wonder if I could coach, help these people. And I don't think the answer is yes, because it's got to come from them. It's something that certainly I could, give some input and help them, obviously not be Iron Man or something, but there's a lot of things, and I think people just kind of give into and they give up. And once you start giving up, and once you start not going after things like this, and like just yesterday in my swim, those are the little microcosms of my life that I always pay attention to. It's like I was going to quit, and I said no. And this is the kind of stuff that, it's not failure. It's just, another attempt, and you got to keep working that muscle, right? Where you just stay in there and do it, maybe even when you don't realize why you're doing it, but just because it's maybe hard, or it's something that you don't want to do, but in the end it's going to be good. And it may not be tomorrow, it may be, next year, but it's like having that blind faith that you're doing the right thing for the long term, and, figuring out what that is too, because, crushing yourself into the ground might not be that thing either all the time. So I just, when I see those kind of situations like that at the grocery store, and I told my athletes, I don't care, if you do it with me, but please promise me that you're not going to stop moving, and you're not going to stop, trying to be a better person, or like thinking about your health in 20 years, because that shit will hit you quick. And I know a lot of people like that are, I don't want to say completely beyond the point of no return, but they're getting there quick. And, do you want to live like that? Yeah, I just don't think, I think it's an option not to live like that, at least for quite a while. But, these people turn on these roads, and it's no way back.
Man, that hit home. That hits home to me so much. Like when I see, especially with kids, and I think we do, like we get, we share so much, as parents and as adults, whether you got kids or not, we share so much of our lives, and setting examples with so many people. And I think, the biggest lesson that, that we set, if you are a parent or you're an aunt or an uncle or whatever, you're not setting examples of, paces and watts. The kids don't give a fuck. They don't even understand what watts are. They have them, pick their nose half the day and forget to brush their teeth. They're not rocket scientists yet, regardless of how old they are. They just see that you like to work, that you take time out of your day to work on yourself. And I think it's harder for others to kind of wrap your brain around taking time away from them. And I have calls like this all the time with parents who feel like, it's, they're taking time away from the kids. I'm like, well, you think your kids want to see you do nothing ever? You encourage them to get outside and to play and to, do other things. like we want them to do things, and what we do when we like the impact that we have when we show them what we do, they have no idea. You could tell them, I did my 7.3 in 4:20, or you could say I did it in 7:10. They don't care. They have no concept. I mean, we know they have no concept of time, because we can say, hey, we're be down in 5 minutes, and 45 minutes later, you're like, where are they? They have no concept of time.
Sometimes the longer time is more impressive.
Exactly right. That's like, you just like yesterday, I was like, hey, meet me back at the front and on the hub in 5 minutes. 20 minutes later, I go in there, and he's like, oh, I don't know what time it is. Like, they have no idea. They have no clue what it is. And I think, like, again, when you can go back and like, it's great to perform well and it's great to feel your best. It's great. And it's great to win, great to qualify for things, great to PR. Like, all those things are great, but they don't happen every day. They happen every once in a while. But that's not even when like the lessons come. Like, a lot of times they just kind of like happen, when we're least expecting it. But the example that we set, the things that we do, not just the example we set to our kids, the example we set to ourselves. Like that we're capable of doing this, and I love what you said about, I wish I could help these people. And a lot of times, if you can't help them in an active way, you help them passively by showing them. Man, I guess it is possible, right? Because that's exactly how most of us got into this sport. You're at a finish line, you went and saw a race, you saw somebody finish that looked like you, who was shaped like you, who was the same age as you, and you thought, fuck, if they can do it, I can do it, right? That's, again, like, that's how we are able to change things sometimes. Again, if you can't do it actively and in a one-to-one or a group setting or whatever, impact them, you can still impact them when, hey, how old are you? Like, oh, I'm in my, mid-60s. They're like, well, you look 45. You're like, well, yeah, this is what I do. I do endurance sports, and I train, and I eat pretty well. Like, oh, it's not, how many pharmaceuticals are you taking over the counter? How much, plastic surgery have you had? How much this? It's like, oh, you just generally take care of yourself? Yeah, I do. And and that's, again, like that. And it's not just like the physical thing. It's the mentality. I think I do. And like, we can close out here in a minute, but I think that's one of like we're at like this huge crossroads of, where we are in a lot of ways in America. But in one way of, there's looking a certain way and there's feeling a certain way. And feeling a certain way to me is so much more important than how you look. And a lot of it sometimes goes back and forth, but we all know this. We see people all the time who they look like they're in quote unquote fit, but they probably couldn't run a 17-minute mile if you asked them to. For all they smoke 4 packs of cigarettes a day and haven't eaten in a month. Like, that's not healthy. Just because they're skinny, they're not healthy. But like the way that endurance sports can make you feel, the energy, the health benefits, the mental and emotional boost, the resiliency, like, guess what? People pay hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for pills that can't even touch what that does for us. When you do it for, we don't do it for free, I guess, but, just takes time out of your day, time and effort. And again, going back to it, time and effort, can make the most of it. If you really, really want to, that's what you can do.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. We all, kind of get off track a little bit, but don't spend too much time on the wrong road. It always gets harder to find a way back.
I like that. Don't spend too much time on the wrong road. I like that. Did you come with that one on your own?
Yeah, it just came to me. I was taking a shower.
I like that one. That one's solid. I like it. Well, we're back, and we're back again Thursday. As always, we love you guys. We appreciate you. Go to our website, c26triathlon.com, and is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you need anything from Mike, he's available. Mike at c26triathlon.com. Or if you need anything from me, I'm available. Robbie at c26triathlon.com.
All right, man.
All right, dude. I'll catch you later.
I'll catch you later.
See you, dude.